Hello, and thank you for joining us for another Andrew Joseph PR curated webinar with Aspire Design and Home Magazine. I think one of the most overused words of the pandemic is pivot. But you know what? The world has changed, and I like to think of that as evolving and adapting to the times that we're living in. Today, we have a very interesting panel. I think, you know, one of the wonderful things about architecture and design in the home furnishings industry is all the wonderful events that we have and the camaraderie of the friends and associates that we have in our industry and what we learn from that. And now that our worlds have all gone virtual, here we are in another virtual conversation to talk about the future of High Point Market. We have Gary Inman. Gary is a known fixture at High Point Market. If you know Gary, you know everyone else. Gary has started his own business, in a new business in this pandemic. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, Gary, and then introduce the panel, and let's talk all things High Point Market.
Thank you, Andrew. Sure. I started my business in the middle of the pandemic, which was not very smart, but I was already in that trajectory before it happened. So, you know, I was not totally insane. I've been practicing for about 25 years, and I think I finally reached the age where I have the right to practice on my own and do whatever my creative freedom leads me to do. So, excited to be here. Love High Point Market, of course, and I think this program we're going to talk about today is an exciting addition to what we think of as High Point Market. I'm really privileged to have an extraordinary group of people joining me, and I'm going to introduce them one by one and look at their work and have them tell us a little bit about themselves as we go. And I think we're going to start with Laura Thurman. This is not Laura's space. This is one of mine. There we go. Hi, Laura. How's Nashville?
It's good. It's actually nice and sunny and still warm here. I'm waiting for fall to drop.
We're actually having a flash flood today in Richmond, so if it looks a little dark in my room, it's because there's no sunlight. It's all artificial. So, well, welcome. I love your work. Love what you're doing. I love your message of the way you're based in Nashville, which is a kind of traditional market. I always think of it as traditional, but your work is obviously not. It's very blended. It's very universal and global. Tell us about your practice.
Yeah, I'm here in Nashville. The firm's called Thurman Design Studio. I've been in business for almost 5-ish years. And yeah, I always say I have a global aesthetic that's filtered through a modern lens. Like, I love culture, I love to travel, and I'm very much inspired by that. So I kind of bring my LA roots that are, you know, some of the cleaner lines, slightly more modern approach, but really infuse it with, yeah, culture and color, and world travels is definitely a big inspiration.
I love that. I'm actually writing a book called The Art of the Mix, and I'm looking at your images. You've got to be in my book.
Okay.
So I'll talk about that deal later. So,
okay.
Beautiful work. I love the way you're mixing patterns. It's clean and it does feel modern, but it also has a lot of traditional elements that have slipped in, like the bed. It's a very traditional form. So it's a beautiful example of the mix. Well, delighted to have you here. And Laura and I, of course, were style spotters together last year.
Yeah, it was fun.
Really loved your voice in that. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Gary.
Beautiful kitchen. And I love the Moroccan touch there. I never get tired of that. I know something about that's always going to be great.
I love good Moroccan.
So I think we're going to move next to Lisa Sherry, who's based in Charlotte. And Lisa and I have just gotten to know one another, but we had such a great conversation a few days ago. So Lisa, tell us about your practice in Charlotte and the world, because you really practice everywhere.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. I am based in Charlotte. Name of my company is Lisa Sherry Interiors, and I am known for my calm, neutral palette. I love lots of texture and clean lines, but also likes to mix it up a little bit, you know, mixing, juxtaposing things, modern, classic, rough, smooth, just having fun with mostly just being able to keep everything clean and neutral.
Patina, I love the patina of your spaces. I wanted to jump in that bed. It felt like a little fluffy pillow. You know, you just want to jump in. Yeah, texture is so important, isn't it?
It absolutely is. I think, you know, when people hear all white neutral interiors, it can scare people. So, you know, I'm all about, you know, layering and adding texture and, you know, just adding interest that way.
And contrast is so important, like those black chairs, the way they stand out. They pick up the black art, they pick up the little black iron. I think people forget how important texture and contrast are. The space can be very dynamic and be black and white. So thanks, Lisa.
Thank you. Black is
So,
part of the
absolutely. And this brings us to one of our founding members of High Point by Design, HPXD, Tom Van Dessel. I always think you're a rock star, Tom. That name, you should be able to play the guitar. Do you play? You've got that rocker look. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your company, and then we're going to shift and talk about the program. So tell us about yourself first.
Right. Yeah, so my company, Splashworks, we basically design and manufacture all under one roof, wall art and throw pillows and some other home accessories. Our main line being wall art. And we do everything from the graphic design all the way through to the printing, the building of the frames and shipping out the door, and all happens in High Point under one roof. So we're definitely a small scale, all encompassing manufacturer in High Point, really capitalizing on all the skills that exist there. I obviously not originally from High Point, but I moved there in 2014. And really because of, you know, what High Point has to offer. And I think a lot of what we're going to talk about today is very much related to that, you know. Yeah, that's me for now. I'm not going to preempt what I'm going to talk about.
I thought that was a Southern accent, so not Louisiana then.
Not Southern, yeah.
Southern Louisiana. I love it. Thanks for introducing yourself. So from here, what we're going to do is talk about the program itself, High Point by Design, or HPXD. And for those of you watching, hpxd.org is the website. We're going to share all of that again throughout the presentation. But have a look at the website, and that'll really get you also plugged into what's happening. So Tom, I'm going to ask you the first question because you've been referred to as the reluctant chair of this program. So we're going to talk a little bit about that at the end. But what I want you to do now is just tell us a little bit about who the players are, how we got started with this, you know, just a little bit about the beginning sort of generation or genesis of this idea.
Right. Yeah. Well, it all started very casually, and it was really some of you on the call. I know the people on the panel know John Muldoon from Cohab Space quite well. He's you know, a man with a lot of passion and a lot of vision, and he really pulled a group of colleagues, industry colleagues and friends together for casual chats, you know, at Cohab Space on a Saturday morning, but really with, you know, putting one question on the table, which is, hey guys, you know, what else can we do? What is there that we as a group can you know, do together that is bigger than what we're doing today? And he had lots of ideas about all sorts of different things. So we started brainstorming those things that he was talking about and trying to find, you know, a common theme. And what was really interesting is in those early brainstorming discussions, which went all over the place, as they do and as they should do. What was very interesting as we sat around the table with the original 9 or 10 people, you saw that none of us were, except for one, were from High Point. Everybody was from somewhere else. And we all managed to somehow find our way to High Point. And the common thread of what it was that brought us together was really design. And we said, hey, this is interesting. We're actually all design immigrants. And why did we come here? You know, well, we came here because this is where the ecosystem exists that helps design and creativity flourish. And it's here, it's right here, but it's still somewhat in rough components that haven't yet been connected together and haven't yet been fully explored and exploited. So we felt that there was an opportunity there. After more of those early sessions, we, you know, started formulating some good ideas and ultimately to what we called our big idea. And our big idea was, well, how can we activate, how can we create a nexus of design and creativity, make High Point a destination for design and creativity by activating the streets and activating the city and using design as a common thread and become a destination not just for the industry professionals, but definitely for the industry professionals, but also for the all the other brands and makers, who are looking for a place to start up their business and start, young flourishing, or young entrepreneurial people who, where do you go and make something? Well, High Point's the place to do that. Definitely for the interior design professional, High Point's the perfect destination, but also for the design aficionado, these people who really would like to understand more about how does design come about, how does a product get made, can we have a peek behind the curtain and see what's going on, and how do we open up the city to really a much broader a demographic of people who all share that same interest in design. And that was the big idea, let's activate this city, with a common theme of design and make it really broad. The first step of that we thought was, well, in order to do that, we have to be open all year round. That was the crawl stage of this big idea, because otherwise, how are we going to even attract people to come here? So those were sort of the initial ideas. Well, we have this big idea of activating the city, activating the streets, with design as the common theme. But how do we now logically go about doing that? So we had an idea of being open all year round. With that idea, we said, okay, we need to pull in some more people, because we might think this is a great idea, but we really should be surveying our key stakeholders. And so we pulled in leadership from the High Point Market Authority. We talked to designers, we talked to store owners, just to get an idea of how everybody felt about it. Because what we thought might be a great idea as a brand flagship may not necessarily resonate, with our clients and the other stakeholders in the market. But we found that we got some very, very positive response. And so that started gaining some traction, and we started, including more and more people from a big idea, very loosely, articulated big idea of, well, what are the key actions and key strategies that we need to deploy in order to make this happen? And that's really how High Point by Design originated, with a clear picture of saying, okay, let's now, the member flagships, let's now make some commitments as to what it is that we're going to do, and start bouncing those ideas, continue to bounce those ideas off the stakeholders in the industry to make sure that we're on the right track and that we get the right support from everyone else, that this is the right thing to do. And so far, we've had some very positive response from
Yes.
designers, store owners, and also other organizations in the city who really believe that this is a great path to go forward.
That's a great summary, Tom. I had the privilege of sitting in on those meetings, and one of the things that I kept hearing that excited me was everyone was talking about consumer education, really getting the public more involved with the design, understanding the value of design, particularly understanding the value of designers, because we're the people that make design happen. All the creative people in High Point, but Laura, Lisa, and 1,000 times 1,000 of our colleagues all around the country and the globe, in fact, that really make design what it is. So that's part of what got me excited about HPXD as I listened to those meetings and interacted, of course. I did miss out on the beer and chips. You guys never sent me the care package. When someone's zooming in, you can send a little care.
You're always on the Zoom call, right? Exactly.
Yeah. I was always on the Zoom floor, hungry and thirsty. So there you go. Tom, that was a great summation. What I thought would be helpful now is to talk a little bit about the designer potential benefits and values that this brings to those of us who do practice design. And so I've had conversations with Laura and Lisa. So Laura, can we start and just talk a little bit about this idea of the market being available to you, at least a portion of the market? Again, it's 14 flagships at the present time, and we think that number will certainly grow. But what would having access to this great design city do for your practice if it were available year-round instead of just 2 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I live in Nashville, and we don't really have a design hub at the moment. Like, it's in the works, but we don't have a massive showroom or several blocks to go to. So really, for my business, I'm totally reliant on High Point to source and to see the latest and greatest and to touch and feel products so that when I specify it to a client, I can, do it with confidence. And so I think the biggest thing that excited me about it is it being open all year round. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure Lisa can speak to this too. We all love High Point and like the hype and everything that comes with it, the camaraderie with colleagues and, all of the panel discussions, and there's just such an energy. But there are times when I'm like, man, like I want to just go and be in peace. I just want to go and meander through some of the vendors and not have this pressure of like, I can only go twice a year. So I think that's the biggest advantage, is to be able to go on some of the quote unquote off season times and still be able to experience High Point. And I think also maybe, discover some of these gems that maybe some people don't know about. I mean, it's not the big, as of now, right? Maybe this will change, but it's not the big curries and, arterial, like Schwung is amazing. Schwung's one of my favorite vendors. I know so many people who've never even heard of them. Red Egg, Fab. So
Yes.
I think it's important that some of these, I wouldn't say smaller, maybe, not that's a bad thing, but just some of these more kind of like indie smaller brands still have a way to have a voice at High Point and to expand their possibilities of being seen. And so to me, that was the ultimate benefit, is it being open, year round, and just being able to kind of explore at my own pace and not always have the rush of traditional High Point.
I think that's a great point, Laura. I know I always feel overwhelmed, and I'm usually there the entire market because I live close enough that it's easy to get in. And I go, nonstop for those days. And I still feel like I missed so much. There's always a list of people I couldn't get to. So part of what excites me is that exactly what you described, being able to go and spend time with these resources earlier at my own time, my own schedule.
Yeah.
Would you take a client with you, Laura?
I personally would not take a client with me. That's not my jam. That's not, it works for a lot of, I know some designers who do that, but for me, that's just chaos. I couldn't do it. I like to go, I see High Point as really like a time of inspiration. I think the only things I've personally ever purchased at High Point are like accessories. And if I've just stumbled across some amazing art and I'm like, I have to have it, or one of a kind type things. But I like to, take pictures, shop, gain inspiration, come back, download, and then commit to what I'm purchasing for projects. So
it takes a few weeks to process it, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, even just to once you, like you said, you're so exhausted. By the time I get home, I'm like whipped. And then I need a few days to come down off of that and get back into the work mode and figure out what the heck did I even see? What was I inspired by? Which product can go for which client? So
1,000 photographs.
1,000 photographs. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So Lisa, you and I talked about this same idea. I know you and I have the same thought about High Point Market. We would never take a client. Right. But HBXD, if you could go, when market's not happening and there are not 75,000 people on the street, would you take clients? Would you see a value in taking clients? Or would you still want to go and do the reconnaissance yourself? Tell us a little bit about your thoughts.
Right. Well, I think it's a mix. For me, I'm excited about just having more access, because the way that, my firm works is we're so project-based that, when I go to market twice a year, it's great to be able to see new product and take it all in and be inspired. But then I have to go back home, and when I really am speccing for a particular home, it would be so wonderful to be able to, pop over to High Point and write orders at that time, and to be able to see and feel and sit in things would be so helpful, because it's hard when it's only twice a year and you're trying to remember everything and things change. And as far as taking a client, I don't take clients shopping, but for example, I had a client that, I sell, Verellen is my main upholstery line. And, there's such a wonderful brand experience that they have. And I took a client one day just to, be able to, experience that. And it was so helpful because they walk in, they see what it's all about. So there are those times where it really would be helpful. And I was just, Tom, just in your space the other day for pre-market, And, you know, walking in and seeing how you're presenting everything gallery style, I feel like, you know, that's a great asset. So in those cases, I may take a client, you know, to key places where, you know, it can help sell a product and they can, you know, experience it a little bit.
So that brand immersion is really, I think, a great way to get them excited about the project as a whole.
But
Lisa,
definitely
what
wouldn't do
about
that
the
for
antique
people.
suppliers? You know, Schwam is there, Bobo, Randall Tysinger.
Mhm.
Antiques always feel so different to me because they are, you know, the one of a kind, very special, very character type pieces. That might be an opportunity with a client. If you had a client who needed a lot of those kinds of objects, to go and make those selections together with you guiding the process, of course, making sure they fit the space, the scales work, and so forth. I saw that as one possible benefit of this as well.
Also
Yeah.
doing it when there's like when there's less people there. Like I feel like that's the advantage of like if you do decide to take a client to Berlin, like they can really appreciate it when it's not high point because it's like packed. I mean, there's just so much going on, so much distraction. So for them to be immersed, like she was saying, in the brand experience, that I think Lisa brings up a good point about that. Like for them to kind of sit and feel and just kind of get the vibe with maybe a few less people there than there normally would be is definitely an asset.
And I think you also really get the value of meeting the people in a different, more relaxed setting. Because more, you know,
Yes.
a lot of the businesses that you see as members now, they're sort of owner operated, you know. So you really get to hear the backstory, you know, where they came from, and I think it adds to the whole, you know, it adds more to the product than just the product.
It benefits the relationship that we as designers have with the market itself, with the manufacturers. I always advocate at the other markets I go to, BDNY, Expo, and so forth, that you need to come to High Point because that's where you meet the creative team. That's where you meet the owners of these companies, the marketing directors. You really get to know the culture. So I think you're right, Tom. There's even a more of an opportunity to do that when there's not so much competition around you.
Right.
You can have a more meaningful dialogue. That's a good transition to the next question, which is, all of us have talked about High Point Market because as designers, we're so geared towards that. That's our fashion week twice a year. HPXD is not High Point Market, but it's a group of the same manufacturers that are part of High Point Market, but there'll be two different entities. What I think was really smart in the beginning is you brought the market authority in. They sat on our advisory board and they were there and they were highly supportive of this. But do you think there's going to be, and any of you can answer this, is there a synergy there, or is it going to change the dynamic of High Point? How do you think how are those two entities going to interact?
I think we need the change. I think, you know, the pandemic has forced us to work differently. Nothing stays the same. I've been in this business a long time, and you know, we all love market, but it's time to, you know, do something different. And I think that it doesn't affect market because, you know, showrooms can always creatively make these changes, you know, twice a year to give us an extra special experience at that time. But just having that access, I think, is really key to how designers work. And we're the big buyers now. You know, designers are doing a lot of the purchasing now.
Right.
Yeah, I think that number a few years ago flipped to about 65% of the purchases at High Point Market are designers. So it's more of a designer's market than it is a retail market at this stage. And collectively, we have a lot of buying power at designers too. So.
And I think also,
Laura, did you?
To add to that, you know, when you look at again, going back to the big idea, which is about activating the city and the streets, you know, that's the rising tide lifts all ships, right? I mean, you know, you make a much more exciting destination. People are gonna, I mean, really the vision is people want to bring their spouses, you know, and come for the experience in addition to, what they have to do for their job and transact, you know, the business that they have to.
Absolutely.
And I think that's going to benefit the market as much as it is in between markets, you know, because it's still going to be a really exciting time because so many people are still going to come, you know, to the city. You're going to have a much bigger global presence because if, the in-between markets, it's probably going to attract more of a regional clientele. You know, the mid-Atlantic folks are going to be coming in for a day or two. But the big event of market itself is still going to attract a much bigger global visitation. So I think it's just going to be very synergistic, like, all around.
I think so as well. Laura, what did you want to say?
No, I was gonna say, yeah, I don't think that it will replace market by any means. Like, I think I agree with Lisa that there's like changes now, right? There's changes everywhere, things going on. And so it makes sense to sort of like rethink and shift, but I think market will always remain the market that it is, and all of that sort of energy around it. And I think it will be interesting to see as this develops, like you were saying, like how different are they, and maybe what sort of needs do they fill being sort of separate entities. But for this sort of beginning initial stages, I think I'm not worried about it replacing or it being in competition with, or I just don't see that. I think it's something a totally different trajectory than the traditional market, and people will still be excited and will always come to regular market.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, Laura. And Lisa and I talked a little bit a couple of days ago, and we talked about how this has the potential to grow and include many more showrooms. 14 showrooms, and these are some fabulous showrooms, as you can tell. That's definitely worth a trip down to spend time there. But I could see this growing and having all categories included, and maybe even some of the textile companies. So it could really start to become a point where I always think of High Point's a great American design city, and I think that could really be focused and harnessed. And it could be a place you go where you shop all those categories, really.
Yeah.
And some of the major showrooms, when I say major, they're really large ones that have showrooms everywhere, and they're
Right.
true, global brands. They're all starting to take notice of this program and asking questions. And I think some of those mega showrooms will join in, and then it becomes even more of a value. So I guess my point is this could grow exponentially and could become really such an extraordinary destination in America. I can't think of another city that could have flagship showrooms. No one else is going to be able to create quite that model and have so much product.
And I think, just beyond the showrooms, it's the whole ecosystem. You have, you go back in the supply chain, it's from the material suppliers to the creators and the makers, they all add components and elements to this. And that's the wizardry behind the curtain that you're really, trying to leverage and open up so that people really get a full flavor of that. And I think that is totally unique in High Point, as it relates to furniture. I don't think there's another city where that you can really point to that has that level of concentration across the board of artisans, creators, and design minded people.
Yeah.
I think you're right, Tom. And Laura and I did a program together a couple of years ago called the Designer Experience that Designers Today puts on. And do you remember, Laura, all the places we went to and how
Fabulous, yeah,
incredibly impressive it was? I left going, I've been coming to High Point for almost 30 years, many, many, many High Points. And I saw things during that experience that I'd never seen before. Mm-hmm. Just as you said, Tom, I mean, just absolutely amazed at what's happening in that city every single day. But we only get to see the presentations, and the showroom is part of the story, and it's an important part, obviously. Yeah. But behind the scenes, as you said, pulling the curtain back, how is all of this happening? Where's this coming from? Who are the people that are creating these iconic pieces? I went to one of the upholstery manufacturers and saw Vladimir Kagan pieces being made. And it was just kind of a full circle moment for me. I thought, oh my God, I've loved these pieces my whole life. I had no idea they were made, here in High Point. And there they are. And I was like, oh my God, this is, just gives you kind of design chills.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and if the hope is to, kind of, as Tom was saying, to like, not so much the veil, but just this experience and understanding the depth of design and product making and artisans. Like, I hope that some of these brands that have already joined in, like, they intend to show more of that. Like, even if it's something, this is just like on a small scale, but it'd be really cool if there were, sofas sofas like with frames, a few cushions, fabric starting to be put on it. Like if you really want to educate and have people experience something beyond what we see is the beautiful presentation, because we know there's so much more to it. Like that would be cool. Like for even the average consumer, like to really understand, like these things are made by hand, like someone is making this, you know, there's a process to it. And so hopefully, you know, and, you know, from the bigger vendors to the smaller, hopefully there'll just be ways that they, through their showrooms, can really help tell the story of their brand and how all this product comes to be. I think that is super meaningful and will, you know, kind of pull on the heartstrings of everybody in a good way.
Absolutely. Laura, that's the perfect segue to the next section that we wanted to talk a little bit about. I want Tom to kind of share with us how the vetting process took place, and there are protocols that you guys are following as participants in HPXD in terms of who you will let have access to your showroom, who gets to see it. And I know we're talking about opening it more broadly. You mentioned design aficionados, you know, design lovers, people that really have an interest in what Laura just said. They want to understand the process and how the creative process starts with an idea on paper and becomes this gorgeous piece that could live in their home.
Right.
And so could you talk a little bit about that? And then the other piece of that we talked about in some of our planning meetings, Tom, was a way to then start to connect those people with designers. And I know we're not there yet, but eventually our website will have designer referrals and a way to connect people. So if someone's looking for, they want to do an interior that's monochromatic, beautifully detailed, Lisa Sherry might be the perfect person for them.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk a little bit about those two things?
Yeah.
Who gets to come in and how do you decide, and talk a little bit about pricing as well?
Yeah. So one of the remits of the group was that, hey, you know, we're open to all, you know, but as we were discussing that, it obviously, you know, is you know, can be perceived as a touch of, well, what do you mean you're open to all? You know, I mean, what about my clients? You know, I don't want my clients to necessarily be in there, etc. And it makes sense. So this was a big topic of discussion. So one of the absolute most critical and unwavering commitments, it's almost like an oath that you make when you become a member of Hypon by Design, is this absolute adherence to preferential pricing for the trade. You know, so we were, you know, the trade is our customer base, you know, that's who we work with, but we want to make sure that, again, to activate the city and activate the streets, you need to, you know, spread a broader blanket, because you want more people to come, you know, into the city to experience it. But absolutely making sure that your pricing policy is solid and you do not waver. We tag everything at retail pricing, you know, in the showrooms, so that only the trade customers, like the designers, actually get the benefit of that, you know, of that trade pricing, because that's really where our business is, and we want to honor that and maintain it, and that's completely in line with also how the hyper market works, etc. So that is an absolute, you know, set in stone quality that everybody absolutely without fail has to adhere to. That's an absolute prerequisite. In terms of how we then see down the road that happening with, you know, the design aficionado coming in and now being interested in purchasing, or they may have a project. Again, we're brand flagship stores. We don't have design capabilities. We might have an idea of design because we work with designers every day, but we don't have the capability to do design. We do product design, but we don't do, you know, interior design. So and again, in our phasing structure, we're in the crawl phase now. We have a crawl, walk, run phasing of how we're going to roll out a Hypon by Design. But definitely in the next phase, we need to make sure, okay, you know, once we get demand, we get interested parties, how do we, through the website, provide the right, you know, the profiles of the designers that would be a good fit for those people, so that it's sort of like a, you know, here's the directory, but here's a bio, you know, with the imagery that you guys just showed. You know, I mean, that's exactly that, right? Look at the projects that these people have done. Which one, you know, kind of resonates with you from an overall look and feel? Then that might be a good designer that you want to reach out to, you know, for your project. because it's definitely not something that any of us want to even touch, because we have neither the capability or the bandwidth, or the the willingness to do that, because that's really what you do. You're our partners in that part of the process. So we want to make sure that we create those leads and create that interest and pass it on to our primary customer base, client base.
That's great, Tom. I think, that's what I appreciated throughout these discussions was that it was never about abandoning your core base, which are designers, they're your customers and clients, but expanding the whole understanding of design. One of the things I found interesting, and I love jazz music, and John Coltrane, of course, was born in High Point.
Right.
I don't know if enough people that come to High Point notice him standing at the corner of there, next to the theater. But there's a jazz festival, and one of the things we talked about are events throughout the year that could bring large groups of people to High Point. And then part of their experience while they're there is being able to go and see these showrooms and go, wow, there's this whole other exciting world. I love jazz, but look at design, that really rocks. And hopefully they get energized and excited, and then they go onto the website and they see the designers and they fall in love with Laura's work. And so I see this as having a kind of energy that could grow, as you said. It first crawls, and then it walks, and then it can run. When I look at a place like Miami, where the design district is so vibrant and everyone shops that district, and the designers obviously have the privileged connections there, but everyone can go in and see it and get excited about design. This is a way to do that, but exponentially multiplied, because these are flagships. They're not just a satellite showroom showing 10 pieces of Varela, and you can go in and meet Tom, and you can meet Tom Varela, and you can meet the staff, and you can have that incredible immersive experience. So it seems like a win-win.
It's an opportunity to educate. So if a design aficionado comes in, I mean, some people may think they know how to do their, a room or a house, but I think the more you educate them, the more they realize that they really don't, and that they need help, So it's an opportunity for us to also say, well, you might want to go in this direction, or, talk to these people, because they can really help you with that. You have a lot of questions. I can't really answer them for you, but I know somebody that can. And I think that's an opportunity too.
Perfect. Lisa and Laura, I want to give you a chance to chime in now. And
go ahead, Lisa. I know you were like, something was coming. Something was coming.
I couldn't hold it. No, and thanks, Tom, for reiterating that the trade relationships stay strong, because I think that's key for all of us as designers. It's not unlike the internet, has changed everything for our businesses. Everything is available to everyone now. And I think if our clients are coming and shopping market, and they're seeing things and being exposed to things, that can help us, it could become an easier sell because they're familiar with things. But honestly, I feel like my clients aren't really able to do it themselves. They're hiring a professional. Laura, I'm sure it's the same for you. They're hiring us for our expertise, because they have great taste. They know what they like when they see it, but it's very daunting to be able to put all the parts and pieces together, with the proper scale and texture and whatever. So I think even if, but there are always going to be, clients and people who just want to do it themselves, or want to come and be inspired. And again, those are the shoppers that are, buying online. It's not affecting us as designers. So it's really kind of a win-win for, not being threatened by our clients being able to, go to High Point and see everything and, purchase on their own.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a really good point, Lisa, I think, to understand, because initially when I heard this, that's, going to be open to the public. But then, when you really start to understand it, you realize that's not my client base.
Right.
It's going to really educate people about design. It's not going to take away one of my clients. So it's really good key point. Laura, what were you about to say?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to, second that. I mean, if the whole thing was open tomorrow, every single vendor, it's not like the entire masses are going to come flock to it and design their whole house by themselves. Like I feel, I feel like I think it would be nice for people to be able to sit and feel and explore. So at the very least, they can really understand the quality and the beauty of some of these pieces that we're specifying from them beyond what they see on my monitor, on our digital presentation. Like they can, see and feel. But I think ultimately, each designer knows their client base, their clientele. And if someone thinks that they can totally go out and like design a whole room by themselves, then like more power to you. Like you're probably not the client for me, and that's okay. So, I think people will go and maybe hopefully they will see the beauty and be really inspired and as Lisa said, realize, okay, I want all this, and I still don't know how to put it all together. Like just because you have
That's
access,
what I know they need, you guys.
just
They
because
need
you have
all of us.
access, just because you have access to a million vendors, I don't know if that makes it any easier for the average consumer. They're still not gonna know what they're doing.
Us, Laura, imagine just a regular client.
I'm overwhelmed at High Point too. Exactly. I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean,
We all know design can be overwhelming because there are so many choices. And I always say to the clients, I'll edit the world for you. And I'll only show you things that make sense for the lifestyle you're telling me you want to live.
I'll edit the world.
I just want to say we've got a lot of activity in the chat room, and Lisa, Victoria Sanchez, who's one of our style spotters this year, she's commenting on your response, Laura, and she said, absolutely about quality. You need to be able to see it to understand it. Educated clients make better clients. And so I love that mission of education because I do think she's right. An educated client is a better client. They understand how difficult what we do is. Sometimes I think we make the mistake of making it look like ballet. And if you've ever studied ballet, which I did, I minored in ballet, and let me tell you, it's all sweat and blood. It may look graceful, but it ain't graceful. It is just hard work, painful, hard work. Design feels that way sometimes. I'm like, okay, I just, it's just crazy, isn't it? I just wish they knew how hard we worked. So if they see. So Kathy's going to probably send over a couple of questions. We're now 40 minutes in. So we've got a little bit of time and we'll see what questions pop up here. A lot of people have commented on, ecosystems and brand immersion. That, Lisa, that really struck a chord, being able to immerse yourself in this. And who are the actual brands that are participating now, Tom? Can you just tell us those? And why don't you tell us also about your recruiting and how you're reaching out to other showrooms to participate? Because there are a lot of showrooms that come to mind for me that are open in High Point that are not on the list yet. So what's
Yeah, so we do. I mean, there's a couple of things. We do want to provide a somewhat of a curated experience, for the people that go onto the High Point by Design website. We want to make sure that the representation of the flagships that are there are cohesive, in the sort of the vibe and the style and the voice of what we provide. And it's very much based on things that are a little bit, unique and a little bit special, that's definitely part of where we are right now. We definitely want to grow, obviously, from the 14, or I think we're actually at 16 or 18 right now. We ask people to basically show an interest, and then we will go back and share with them what the flight manual is, because we do have some prerequisites, and one of the prerequisites is you have to be prepared to be open, and that's not necessarily for everybody a given. I mean, many people really do use their showroom only during market, and they don't have the infrastructure or the people or the manpower or whatever it is to be open all year round. So it's not, that's already for some brands, it's just not a possibility. We're also asking for a street access, so it's easy accessible, and we don't have to go through lobbies and other areas to get there, because that makes the flow a little harder. So there's and I won't go through all the flight manual details, but there's a number of things. So we really allow, before we even make any determination, we allow the brands to look at those requirements themselves and say, well, does that even fit for me or not? And some people may feel that yeah, I want to be a part of this, but then when they look at that, they say, what, maybe that doesn't work for us, right, at this moment in time, and they might work towards it. At this point in time, we haven't mandated to be open every day, all year round, as of today. But we have said as of March 15th, you have to have put the system in place to be open every day, all year round. Right now, at a minimum, you have to be open by appointment. A couple of them are already open every day, like Splashworks is open every day, Cohab is open every day, Thurman is open every day by appointment. So there's a mix there, but everyone that's on the list, the 16 that are on the list, are working towards making that happen very quickly, so that when a designer comes to town, they can be rest assured to have at least 14 to 16 showrooms they can go visit, not 2 or 3. I think that's important, because otherwise it'd be a long trip for to see a couple of showrooms.
So what is the goal in terms of the number of showrooms? Do you have a kind of vision for that?
Yeah, we've sort of said, hey, you know what, 75 to 100, would be great if we got to that level. But again, we also don't want. And the reason why it's curated is also for that reason. We don't want to be the yellow pages of showrooms, because then what are we giving then we're overwhelming people again, right? So we're saying, well, let's try and curate it to a degree so that there's brands, that the same designers would like to associate with, because if everybody's on that list, then it's also going to be overwhelming, and it just becomes a big directory and maybe not that useful. But there are, and this is what I think is really interesting, we're not the only game in town, and we don't pretend to be or don't aspire to be the only game in town. And we don't have a monopoly on being open all year round. Everybody can be open all year round. And there are other organizations in town, like the Visitors Bureau, that does a really good job of pointing people in the right direction as well. So it's I think it's, and as well as the High Point Showroom Association. There are other organizations that also have affiliations with brands, and that's perfectly fine. I think we should all work together, and make sure that we leverage each other's strengths, and that we target the right people that are going to be interested in what we're offering and what they're offering.
I like that I heard you say, Tom, that the curation is also about something different and unique, because like you said, we don't need another High Point directory. I mean, we already have,
exactly.
we already has that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I like the idea that it is about, maybe the unique or off the beaten path. There are so many, I don't know if you feel this way, Lisa. I feel like there's still so many brands I have never seen, never even heard of, but I know are at High Point, right? I know they're there because other people know about them, and you hear them in conversation. And then, when you actually have time to go over and visit one, you're like, dang, wish I knew about them all along. They're amazing, So I think it would be nice to, celebrate those that are smaller and off the beaten path and unique, still worthy of the attention, have the quality, have the beauty, have great stuff, but just don't, maybe have the hundreds of thousands in marketing to pump out every year, and you just don't hear about them as much. So to me, that's also what's really exciting. I'd love to grow my own personal list of places to source that are still supporting the city and amazing artists, but they're new and different. And ultimately, I think that's what all designers want. I think we're always looking for what is something unique and new. You have the mainstream that's always fabulous, but then you're always trying to layer in things that are different, and it takes those different, unique resources to help us with those projects. So.
Right.
And Laura, I like that idea. And the maker culture is something that's so incredibly important now. And that is represented well amongst these 14 or 16 founding members of the program. It's a great way to see
Gary,
the work of an artisan who can't afford to market. The only thing they can do is some social media, perhaps, but they don't have a marketing budget.
Right.
So this gets them on the radar. What were you going to say, Tom?
I didn't mean to interrupt, Gary, but I know that you said somebody mentioned what are the brands, but I think there was one slide, maybe that can go up on the screen that shows. I think there was one slide in the.
Yeah,
there's a logo slide that might be helpful.
That might be good.
And I wanted to say to our audience again that if you go to the website, you'll be able to see each of these showrooms and then click on them and it'll take you to their site. The same for the designers that are featured here. If you want to know more about one of the designers, click on it and it will take you to an interview they did and to their site. So the website is really well done and it's a great informational piece. So be sure you visit that. One other question that came in, And I want to ask Lisa and Laura quickly is, you see who's on the list. Is there anyone here that you've wanted to see and haven't had a chance to see? Or is there anyone you're dying to see on that list that maybe we can drop a name and then Tom can chase them down and twist some arms?
I'm taking notes.
Well, I do think that, I know you want a curated list, but at the same time, for me, having access in between markets to more showrooms is a perk and a bonus. So, the more the merrier. I think, there's so many great vendors in the C&D building. There are even so many, is there the possibility where, the suites, which is normally, the independent companies that only show, they don't even have a showroom, is there a way to curate that so there are more, independent showrooms that are able to, be there consistently. But I love Arteriors. I would love it if they were open more often. I'm sure I can think of others, but
I don't know, Design Legacy on that list.
Yes, Design Legacy.
I love them. I love Textures. I didn't see them on there. Textures.
Textures?
Yeah, they have a showroom right next to Varela, and they like share a wall essentially, and then they have like a huge warehouse several blocks away. One of a kind Indonesian handmade stuff. That's amazing. Was Cisco on there?
We are in dialogue with Cisco, and they will be on there. I don't know if they're on the slide, but they will be on there. Yes.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah.
Tom, there's one company that comes to mind, Con Arte, and what I like about them is they bring the European element. So if someone's looking for wonderful hand-blown Murano glass, they can see it in person. Vistosi is there. So there are really all these little hidden gems tucked around High Point that most people never go to that showroom because it's not easy to get to. It feels like it's so far away. It actually isn't.
Yeah, just calling all hidden gems. Come out of the woodwork.
But I think that's also a little bit how this also started. Is like, how do we elevate all this creativity? How do we bring it to the surface? I think is also, right now it's the group that's there is sort of the group that sort of knows each other. But yes, we want to find out all those other ones. And there's even people that do custom work that don't even necessarily feature as a showroom, but as a designer, you would love to know. I'm thinking of stab design,
Yeah, and Tom, that's a great idea, because even if it were a resource for us to be able to come if we need to make custom light fixtures or,
That's what they do,
And those.
That's who you want to know.
That would be cool. Yeah.
Absolutely. Who's the lighting company that shows at Varela? Those incredible textile and metal pieces.
M2C.
Yes, M2C. Amaze. Yeah, I love.
Just amazing, extraordinary lighting. Yeah, I'd love to know more about them and be able to have access to them all the time. So.
Yeah. Awesome.
And I know there are some textile and rug people that show throughout the year as well. So anyway, we're moving in a good direction.
Well, you've just doubled the list. Okay, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Did I say 75? I meant 100.
75 would be an enormous number if you think about it.
Yeah.
200 Lex, how many different companies are represented there? And they're all very small collections from those companies. So if we had 75, I can't think of anything that would surpass that or even come close to it. So that'd be great.
Yeah.
Before Andrew chimes in, I wanted to just, thank everyone again, all of those of you who are in the audience who are following us. And Lisa, loved your comments, love your work. Laura, of course, I'm smitten with you, totally great designer. Tom, you really gave us a good summary of the program, the very thoughtful way that it was put together and the way that it really supports and really celebrates design. As a designer, I appreciate that. I oftentimes feel that fashion designers get treated like rock stars get treated like rock stars, actors get treated like gods, and interior designers are totally changing the way people live their lives. We're enriching people every day through hotels and resorts and homes and spas. Mm-hmm. We don't get celebrated in that way, so it's nice when someone says, we really need to celebrate design and elevate it and lift it up and try to get more people engaged with it and hopefully create opportunities really for all of us. The makers of the product, those of us who are selecting and putting those products into great design compositions. So really just thank you to everyone. Thank you, Andrew, Joseph, for putting this together.
Well, thank
And
you
particularly
very
Aspire.
much. This was you all really are the poster children for High Point Market and elevating design, which is something very important that we should all keep close to our hearts. Thank you very much for all the attendees for coming in, and thank you for a very engaging and wonderful conversation. Happy Thursday, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you, Aspire Design and Home.
Thank you very much.